Let me start by asking you, what is your largest expense right now? Student loans, maybe a mortgage payment, health insurance, the kids, etc. Well, I don't know if you've thought about it, but your largest single expense is taxes, federal and state taxes. And it was funny because I was talking with a fellow the other day, and he said he didn't pay any taxes this year. In fact, he got a $1,200 refund. I simply informed him that that didn't mean he didn't pay taxes. He paid plenty of taxes. In fact, he overpaid his taxes by $1,200. And that's the worst savings you could possibly have. That's the worst kind of an investment. That comes to, divided by 12 months, about $100 a month more than you need to have withheld from your paycheck. And you could be using that $100 every month, because when the government finally has to return it, are they going to pay you any interest on that? No. Do they pay you any penalties? No. You try that with their money and see how you get hit. So you don't want to, everybody's paying taxes, and that's really your largest single expense. We just don't think about it. We don't realize it because it comes out of each paycheck, as opposed to the revolution that would take place if the government waited to the end of the year and then we had to calculate how much we owed and the size of that check that we'd have to write. But that's your largest single expense. And I don't know if you thought about it, but the amount of money that you pay in taxes is the equivalent. Well, let's take 1944. Starting on January 1st until March 29th, that's 88 days that you're working for the government. And in 1974, it was extended to 121 days. And so it's kind of like you're working for the government from January 1st until May 1st, 121 days, before you get to keep any of your own money. And in 1997, that jumped to May 8th, 128 days. And in 2010, it's just gotten worse and worse. And the debt that's we're all going to have to shoulder, and the inflation that's coming down the pike, makes it very important to manage your taxes. You can never be wealthy if you don't get a handle on your taxes. The trouble is, in the United States, the two categories of taxpayers. 90% of Americans have a job. They work for somebody else, and so they're employees. And the employee's getting hammered. I hope you're not simply an employee. Because an employee can only deduct their dependents. They can deduct their interest on their mortgage if they have a house. They can deduct the contributions to an IRA, and they can deduct contributions to their church, tithing, or to nonprofit charitable organizations and missions and that sort of thing, and that's it. That's all you can deduct. But when you're self-employed, you can deduct portions of your home, portions of your lawn care and your utility bill and water and sewer and your mileage. It's about, I was told I could deduct about 55 cents a mile. And, I drive 2 miles and I can deduct a dollar. And that's significant. I could hire my kids and deduct that as a business expense. My cotton machine, my computers, my phones, my supply, all sorts of stuff, I get to deduct because I'm self-employed, business trips and that sort of thing as well. So I got very interested in that. You see, the difference is this. When you're an employee, you make income. And you pay taxes right away on the income. That's what's withheld from your paycheck. I'll never forget when our son Joby got his first job waiting tables at Macaroni Grill, and he got home that first evening with his first paycheck after he'd been working for a couple of weeks. And instead of being delighted, he walks in the kitchen with this look of perplexity and frustration, and he blurts out, "Who's Fika?" And he didn't like all that money that had been taken out of his paycheck. But you see, that happens to employees. It doesn't happen to business owners or people who are self-employed, because a business doesn't make income. A business makes revenue, and you don't pay taxes on revenue. So, for example, take an employee who makes, let's say, $50,000 a year, and a business that makes $50,000 a year. The employee is going to have to pay taxes on the whole $50,000, but the business gets to write off its expenses off of the revenue that it takes in. So let's say the expenses are $30,000. The difference is $20,000, and that's all they pay taxes on. In fact, if you have a loss, you don't pay taxes at all. You only pay taxes on the profit, whatever that might be. And generally speaking, in a legitimate business, a real business, the IRS doesn't necessarily expect you to make a profit for quite a number of years. The fellow who came and spoke to my economics class, who'd bought the McDonald's franchise at the corner of 80th and Wadsworth here in Arvada, Colorado, he told the class that he wasn't going to make a profit for 7 years. But the difference is he intended to make a profit. He was trying to make a profit. So you can be in the employee category and getting hammered by taxes, or you can be a business owner. And the two are miles apart in terms of what you can do. For example, you know, I talked about how you would earn your income from your job, you pay tax on the income, and then you try and live on what's left over. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you've run out of money before you ran out of month. Or you can make all your money, take out all your expenses, and only pay taxes on the remainder. You live on what you got and just pay taxes on the remainder. So that's what I'm talking about. You can still keep your job. You still have your regular job, but it's so crucial that you have some kind of legitimate business on the side so you can take advantage of building expenses, landscaping, computers, utilities, automobile expenses, software, office supplies, travel, entertainment expenses, lawn care, education expenses, legal expenses, postage, wages, equipment, all that other sort of thing. So what I want you to do is imagine that you're a doctor and you leave your home in the morning and you drive down to the clinic. And as you drive into your parking area, you notice that it's being repaved. Is that a business expense? Sure. And you notice they're working on the hedges and the lawn care, and maybe they're planting some flowers. Is that something that you can write off? Yeah. And you go inside and there's your receptionist, and her salary is a business expense. And the furniture in the waiting room is a tax write-off. And the magazine subscriptions that the adults are looking at, and the games, the Xbox and all, whatever the games are nowadays that the kids are playing with, that's all an expense. The TV, all this, the dental equipment, or whatever kind of a doctor you are, that's all a business expense. So let's say you get tired of the commute, and you decide to move your clinic into your home. It's big enough. So you're going to meet your clients, your patients, in your home, the portion that you set aside as your clinic. Do all those business expenses come with it? Yeah. And now you can write off a portion of your home and all those other expenses we've mentioned. I'll tell you, it's really important to do this. And you can combine your business with your home business, and that gives you the greatest tax reduction strategy in America. There's nothing else as good. For example, let's say you're a single renter and you're making $25,000. Now, with the tax advantage system of having a home-based business, you make $1,000 in your home-based business, but you have about $15,000 in expenses your first year, for example, and so that means you end up with a huge savings, over $3,000 in savings. and that's significant. So that's for a single renter who has no children. So let's say he gets married, and the fellow now is making $30,000 a year. Again, he's only made $1,000 in his home-based business, but he's got an average of about $21,560 in expenses that he wouldn't otherwise have as business expenses. Well, he pays no taxes in that example. He actually gets a earned income credit of $2,120 rather than paying $2,735 in taxes. Now, a couple years goes by, and this family with their 2 kids, he's now making $60,000. And again, he's got a home-based business, not making a whole lot of money yet. But again, that's the average for the expected expenses in that scenario. And now he's saving, about $7,000. And now we move up to the family making $100,000 a year, and they're saving $12,000 by having a home-based business that only makes $1,000 that year. The IRS would expect that after a couple of years you get the hang of it and you start making a lot of money. But you have to understand that the reason Congress permits this is because Congress understands that the economic strength of America historically has been the small business. And to even today, the small businesses employ more people than the large corporations. Now, the problem is you go down to the bank and take out a big loan to start your business, and it might be doing fine, but the average lifespan for the typical storefront in the mall or wherever is about 5 years. And at that point, about 83% of them are out of business. So that's kind of spooky because not only they're out of business, but the people are bankrupt. They have to declare bankruptcy because they spent all the money they owe the bank. So Congress can't force us to take that risk. So instead, they extend to us every possible tax deduction they can think of, hoping that will become very successful and make a lot of money, and the government will be reimbursed, so to speak. For example, Billy Gates, when he was tinkering with computers in his garage, was he making any money? Not really. Was he paying any taxes? No. Is he today? Oh, yeah. As little as possible, but he's still paying an awful lot in taxes. And so the government's hoping we'll all become Bill Gateses. Now, for those of us who are already self-employed, let's say you're an attorney, and you can practice law in Colorado, but you don't have your license to practice law in other states. Well, what kills people that are self-employed is the self-employment tax. But if you come on board with Manatech, then we can create expenses outside of Colorado, which increases our tax deductions, our expenses, which lowers our revenue, our profit, which means we pay less self-employment taxes. So even if you're already self-employed, there could be some advantages to that. So that's a scenario. It makes a huge difference. One of the difficulties is that Americans don't always understand this, and they are really suffering. There's $1.4 trillion in credit card debt alone, and that's climbing every year. Last year, there were more than 2 million bankruptcies. People are living paycheck to paycheck. Baby boomers have little hope of retirement. Social Security is a joke. Nearly 1/2 of all divorces are caused by financial pressures. And we got 2-income families. Who's at home raising the kids? So we really encourage you to take a look at Manatech. It's the ideal home-based business. I was able to cut my income taxes almost 40% the first year. And it's just been phenomenal ever since then. We've been audited 3 times, and we've come out ahead. We never owed money in any of those instances, And in fact, the IRS discovered that they owed us just over $19,000. So if you have a hankering to develop some retirement, some financial freedom, some time freedom, so that you can enjoy life and not just spend your life making a living instead of making a life, we welcome you aboard.